You stand in the quiet of August 6th, and something in you already knows this is not an ordinary day. There is a young soul coming closer to your life, or perhaps closer to your awareness, and the nearness feels both tender and unsettling. You can feel it in the way your thoughts keep returning to what is changing, in the way your chest tightens when you try to explain why this moment matters. Sometimes the heart recognizes a season before the mind has language for it, and that is where you are now. If you have been sensing that God is drawing someone near, yet you cannot tell what that union will require of you, stay here with me. This message is for the part of you that wants clarity without losing reverence. If you want a deeper guide for understanding why a season feels so significant, the call of the chosen. A 30-day journey can help you name what you are living and move through it with steadier faith, and you can find it at the top of the comments in the pinned comment. You do not need to force the meaning of this hour. You only need to let the signal become clear enough to obey. What makes this kind of nearness heavy is that it does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives in a small interruption to your routine, like a thought that returns while you are washing a cup, or a quiet unease while you are sitting in the car before work. You may notice that you are more attentive than usual, and yet less able to explain why. Your shoulders may stay tense even after the room grows still, and your hands may keep reaching for the phone as if an answer should already be there. That is the kind of body language that often follows a spiritual recognition before the explanation is ready. You are not imagining that something is gathering. You are also not required to pretend that you understand it all. The wise response is not panic, and it is not performance. It is attention. Is the humility of saying, I want to see this rightly. When a younger soul moves closer, it can awaken tenderness, responsibility, memory, and even grief about what you have already survived. The nearness is not always easy, but it can be holy in the way it asks you to become more honest. This is why the title speaks so. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment, directly to your inner life. It does not just announce that something is happening, it asks you to receive the meaning of the encounter without turning it into fantasy or fear. There are seasons when God does not give you a full map, only enough light for the next faithful step. In those seasons, the heart must learn to distinguish between what is truly being formed and what is simply being felt. The young soul near you may represent freshness, innocence, a new responsibility, or the reopening of a place in you that had grown careful. It may also reveal where you have become guarded, rushed, or overprotective. That is not a threat. It is an invitation to grow in discernment. You do not need to call everything a sign, but you also do not need to dismiss the signs that keep returning. When a title like this keeps pressing on your attention, it is often because your spirit is being asked to mature in how it receives love, timing, and connection. What matters now is not the drama of the moment, but the quality of your response. Picture a simple room before sunrise. The lamp is still on low, the coffee has gone cold, and the phone lies face down on the table while your mind keeps circling one name, one possibility, one question you have not dared to say aloud. You may look calm from the outside, but inside there is a slight leaning forward, as if your whole life is listening. That is how these moments often begin. They do not announce themselves with thunder. They arrive like a draft under the door. And because they arrive quietly, you can be tempted to treat them as insignificant. But the heart knows better. It knows when attention has shifted. It knows when a newer tenderness is asking to be received differently. If you have spent days trying to decide whether this is merely emotion or something deeper, let yourself slow down. Not every stirring demands instant action. Some stirrings ask for reverence first. Your task is to remain available without becoming careless, and to remain calm without becoming closed. The nearness of a younger soul may not be about possession at all. It may be about formation, timing, and the way God prepares your response before the encounter becomes visible. There are moments when waiting itself becomes exhausting, not because nothing is happening, but because you cannot tell what the waiting means. You may have already prayed, already thought it through, already asked whether this is closure, preparation, redirection, or a new beginning. The uncertainty can make you feel strangely isolated, even when life is full around you. That is why many readers look for something that can help them understand the season they are in, rather than just endure it. The Call of the Chosen. A 30-day journey offers a way to recognize the difference between delay and direction, between an open door and a door you are meant to release, and between emotional noise and faithful discernment. Many readers who arrived feeling confused or tired of waiting said the material helped them understand their season more clearly, organize their prayers, or stop interpreting every silence as abandonment. To access the ebook, go now to the top of the comments and click the link in the pinned comment. You do not need to rush the answer. You need to become steady enough to receive it honestly. And that steadiness matters because there are forces in ordinary life that try to flatten holy attention. Distraction comes in with its usual confidence, asking you to check one more thing, scroll one more time, compare one more story, and call that wisdom. Fear comes in another way, telling you that if you do not define the moment quickly, you will lose it. Pressure is often the loudest of all, making you feel that you must either act now or miss everything. But a younger soul, or the nearness of one, is not something to handle as a problem to solve. It is something to discern with care. You may feel the urge to overread every message or underread every silence. Both can exhaust you. What you need is not more agitation but clearer sight. That clearer sight begins when you stop treating uncertainty like failure. Some seasons are meant to teach you patience without dulling your instincts. Others are meant to show you that tenderness does not require urgency. If this is what is happening around you, then your peace will not come from guessing well. It will come from responding well. Think about Joseph for a moment. He was given a dream, but the dream did not become his life in one clean motion. There was delay, misunderstanding, and a long stretch of hidden formation before the visible change arrived. That story speaks to ordinary days more than we sometimes admit. You may be in a kitchen with dishes stacked in the sink, or in a car waiting for the light to change, and still carry a sense that something has been entrusted to you before it is fully explained. Joseph had to live with both promise and process. So do you. The young soul drawing near may awaken in you not just hope, but responsibility. You may not know yet whether you are being asked to welcome, wait, guide, or simply remain open. But the biblical pattern is clear enough to help. What is true does not become less true because it is still hidden. And what is forming in God's time often needs time to mature in character. That means your ordinary life is not separate from the sacred meaning of this season. It is the place where the meaning is tested, refined, and made trustworthy. If you ignore that signal, nothing dramatic needs to happen for the cost to be real. You can keep moving, keep working, keep smiling, and still slowly grow numb to what is asking for your attention. That is how people lose peace without noticing the exact moment it left. They begin to answer every small discomfort with more noise instead of more honesty. They call it staying busy, but it is often a way of avoiding the inner conversation. When a younger soul approaches your life, the temptation is to either romanticize the nearness or harden yourself against it. Neither response preserves your clarity. What preserves your clarity is a disciplined attention that says, I will not abandon what I know just because I do not yet know everything. Repeated cycles of avoidance can make you less receptive to the very thing you have been praying for. And the heart, if it is kept in too much suspense, can begin to mistrust its own discernment. That is why this moment deserves gentleness and courage at the same time. Gentleness keeps you from forcing what is not ready. Courage keeps you from ignoring what is. So keep the title in front of you, not as a prediction to control, but as a lens for recognition. If a younger soul is drawing near, then your first responsibility is not to manipulate the outcome. It is to become the kind of listener who can receive the meaning without distorting it. Let this be simple enough to carry. You are being asked to notice, not to panic, to discern, not to perform, to receive, not to possess. The emotional force of this day is not in certainty, but in readiness. You may not yet know the final shape of what is coming near, but you can already decide that you will not meet it with confusion or fear. Type 888 in the comments as a quiet confirmation that you are choosing readiness over reaction, and then come back to the narration. That small act is not a performance. It is a way of marking the threshold with intention. What you honor with attention becomes easier to steward with peace. The real conflict, though, is not only outside you. It lives in the places where your own history meets this moment and asks too much of it. A younger soul can awaken tenderness, but it can also awaken old assumptions about what closeness costs. You may find yourself wondering whether you are allowed to be open, whether openness will make you vulnerable, whether vulnerability will become disappointment. That inner pattern is not a failure. It is a habit of self-protection that once made sense. But habits can become cages when they keep you from recognizing a fresh work of grace. The issue is not that you feel cautious. The issue is whether caution is serving wisdom or fear. You do not need to shame yourself for the instinct to guard your heart. You only need to notice when that guard has become so strong that it blocks the very kindness you have been asking for. Sometimes recognition alone is not enough. Sometimes you need a companion that helps you separate memory from meaning and caution from calling. Your next step is not to erase your inner complexity, but to bring it into the light where it can be understood. There are moments when the body speaks before the language does. You feel it in the shallow breath that never quite settles, in the jaw that tightens while you are trying to stay calm, in the way your shoulders rise as if they are bracing for impact. Yet the spirit may be recognizing something beautiful at the same time. That is why you need to be careful not to confuse bodily tension with spiritual refusal. A tired nervous system can make even good news feel heavy. Likewise, a tender spirit can feel overwhelmed by the weight of significance. If you have been asking whether this nearness is from fear or from faith, give yourself time to notice the difference. Fear narrows you. Faith steadies you. Fear makes you rush toward control. Faith helps you remain present. Fear makes every silence sound like rejection. Faith can hold silence without turning it into a verdict. You do not have to decide everything today. You do have to keep your inner observations honest. There is wisdom in asking what is reaction, what is recognition, and what is simply fatigue. That distinction will protect you from misreading the season. The environment around you also matters more than you may think. Some rooms make discernment easier, others make it harder. Some conversations sharpen your attention, others muddy it. You may notice that certain people want quick conclusions, while your own spirit is asking for patience. That does not mean you should isolate yourself. It means you should choose carefully where you let your thoughts rest. A younger soul drawing nearer can make every surrounding voice feel louder, especially if those voices expect you to be certain before you are ready. But not every opinion deserves equal weight. Not every urgency deserves a response. Your peace is not preserved by suspicion, but by stewardship. Stewardship means you learn what helps you listen well and what makes you react too fast. It means you keep company with what strengthens clarity. In the same way a quiet church seat can help your mind settle, a noisy atmosphere can make everything feel urgent when nothing needs to be. Give the moment room to breathe. God often clarifies what panic only blurs. Noise has a strategy. It does not always attack directly. Sometimes it simply fills your attention until you can no longer hear what matters. Fatigue has a strategy too. It makes the soul too tired to ask the right question, so you settle for the easiest one. Delay can also become a strategy of opposition when it convinces you that because something is not immediate, it is not real. But a younger soul approaching your life may require a slower kind of faith than you are used to giving. The temptation is to mistake slowness for absence. That is where many hearts become careless. They either chase what is not ready or they abandon what is still forming. Neither helps you. You need a response that is calm enough to wait and awake enough to notice. This is the place where your obedience becomes practical. It looks like how you answer texts, how you pray before speaking, how you decide whether your own assumptions are helping or harming the moment. Small decisions are often where large discernment begins. And if you are honest, the hardest part is not always the waiting itself. It is the temptation to let impatience rename the waiting as emptiness. There is a turning point when you stop negotiating with the truth of what you feel. Not every feeling is a command, but some feelings are evidence that your attention has been awakened. If you keep turning away from that evidence, you will eventually start calling numbness peace. That is why the title matters now. It is asking you to receive the nearness of a younger soul without collapsing into fantasy or control. You are not asked to manufacture a future. You are asked to honor the present. That means being truthful about the tenderness in you, truthful about the caution in you, and truthful about the fact that both may coexist for a while. This is not a place for spiritual performance. It is a place for quiet honesty. Once you stop arguing with what has already been made clear, your whole posture changes, your breathing deepens, your shoulders lower, your mind becomes less frantic, and in that stillness, the next step begins to emerge. The hardest part is often admitting that you cannot force clarity by wanting it harder. Clarity comes when the heart is willing to receive what is real. Imagine a seed beneath the soil. No one claps for it there. No one sees how the shell softens, how the hidden life gathers strength, how the dark place becomes a place of formation. Yet what is beneath the ground is not wasted. It is being prepared. That is the image that can help you understand this season. The nearness you sense is not something to display prematurely. It is something that may be growing in unseen conditions before it can be named. The soil does not flatter the seed. It presses it. It covers it. It holds it in a darkness that feels like delay. And still the work continues. In the same way, what is coming closer to you may be developing in a hidden way that cannot yet be explained by visible outcomes. You may feel as if nothing is happening, but something may be taking root where your eyes cannot follow. This is why haste can be a poor companion to holy things. It wants everything visible before it is ready. But life, as you know, often works below the surface first. The seed teaches you to trust formation before display. The seed's hiddenness is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of protection. The shell guards what is tender until the conditions are right. If it opened too soon, the life inside would be exposed before it was strengthened. That is not rejection, it is mercy. You may be frustrated by what feels unfinished, but unfinished is not the same as unwanted. Some of the ache you feel in this season comes from wanting visible proof too early. You want to know whether the young soul near your life is meant to stay, whether the relationship will deepen, whether the distance will be meaningful, whether your heart should lean in or step back. Those are fair questions, but they are not always answered quickly. The hidden stage asks something else of you. Patience with the process. It asks you to trust that not all growth can be rushed into exposure. And if you have been protecting yourself because you fear disappointment, remember that protection and preservation are not the same. One closes everything. The other waits for the right opening. The seed remains covered, not because it has no destiny, but because destiny needs time to become ready. Opposition in the soil often looks like pressure. The earth presses down, the darkness lasts longer than expected, and the seed has no way to prove what it carries, except by staying faithful to its design. That pressure can feel like discouragement when you are living it, especially if you have wanted immediate confirmation. But pressure is not always punishment. Sometimes it is the force that helps a tender life deepen its roots. What feels hidden from you may still be strengthening you. In this season, the temptation is to resent the covering, to call every delay a denial, or to look for excitement instead of formation. Yet the most important work may be happening quietly, without applause. If the young soul is drawing near, then your task is to remain rooted enough not to be shaken by every shift in mood or circumstance. The seed cannot argue with the soil. It can only continue becoming what it was made to be. You are being asked to do something similar. Let the pressure reveal what is stable in you. Let it show you where you need more patience, more tenderness, more trust. What is forming under pressure often becomes more resilient than what was rushed into the light. Then comes movement. The shell that once felt final begins to split at the edges. Nothing about that moment is noisy, but everything changes. What was hidden is now starting to rise. What was held under pressure is beginning to respond to the light. This is the moment when your inner life may start to change first, even before any outer circumstance does. You may find yourself less frantic, less desperate to control, more willing to wait for the right opening. The young soul near you is still a mystery in some ways, but your response is becoming clearer. You are not trying to force the future. You are learning to meet the present with integrity. That is movement too. It is the kind that begins inwardly, in the way you breathe, the way you pray, the way you stop calling every silence a loss. The seed does not open because it was pressured into it. It opens because life reaches a point where it can no longer remain hidden. When that happens, the first evidence is often small. A softer thought, a calmer response, a willingness to trust that the right timing will not betray you. This is how God often prepares a heart for a new union, by teaching it how to open without fear. Type "I see it" in the comments if you can feel that this is about more than waiting, and then come back to this moment. What you are naming is not sight in the shallow sense, it is recognition. It means you are no longer pretending the hidden work is not real. The seed does not become the plant by wishing harder. It becomes the plant by yielding to the life already in it. In the same way, you do not become ready by overthinking the sign. You become ready by receiving it with humility. This is the threshold where your attention becomes agreement. You are saying, in effect, that you are willing to let the process be what it is. That willingness is powerful because it ends the inner argument. Once you stop demanding immediate proof, you can finally cooperate with what is forming. The nearness of a younger soul may still be tender, but tenderness no longer has to feel like danger. It can become a place where your heart learns how to move with honesty. The soil has done its work. Now the life begins to meet the light. What returns here is not performance. It is not the pressure to have the right answer in public or the perfect emotion in private. Return means you come back to the center that was true before all the uncertainty started pulling at you. You remember that the title is not asking you to become dramatic. It is asking you to become faithful. A younger soul near your life may be the occasion that reveals how much you have learned to protect yourself from uncertainty and how ready you are to live with more openness. Return is the decision to remain present without demanding control. Return is the quiet act of letting love stay honest. It may feel ordinary from the outside, but inwardly it is a real change. You stop interpreting every delay as rejection. You stop reading every moment through old disappointment. You stop assuming that because the shape is still unclear, the meaning is absent. When you return to the center, you are no longer chasing the sign. You are learning to live inside the wisdom it offers. That is a different kind of strength. It does not make noise. It makes room. A simple practice can help you live that return in the morning. Before you reach for your phone, sit at the edge of the bed and name what you know without forcing what you do not know. Say to yourself that you are willing to notice what is forming and willing not to rush what is hidden. Then take one slow breath and let your shoulders drop. This is not a ritual for control. It is a way of telling your body that it does not need to brace for every possibility. When you begin the day with that kind of honesty, you are less likely to be dragged by the first emotion that appears. The younger soul near you may still feel mysterious, but your own presence becomes steadier. That steadiness matters more than you may realize. It keeps your responses from becoming impulsive. It keeps your hope from becoming fantasy. It keeps your listening from becoming anxiety. One small morning pause can redirect a whole day. It is a simple way to practice availability without pressure and to let your inner life match the wisdom you are asking for. A second practice belongs in the middle of the day, especially when the mind starts to wander into speculation. When you feel the urge to overread a silence or chase a conclusion, pause and look at the nearest object in the room. It might be a notebook, a cup, a receipt, or the edge of a desk. Let it remind you that the present is still here and still sacred. Then ask one honest question. Am I responding from fear or from clarity? That question can stop a cycle before it grows legs. It gives you a chance to separate immediate reaction from faithful discernment. You do not need to solve the entire future in one sitting. You only need to keep your attention clean enough to recognize the next step when it arrives. This practice is especially helpful when a younger soul feels near and your emotions want to run ahead. The point is not to suppress your feelings. It is to keep them from becoming the only voice in the room. When your attention returns to the present, fear loses some of its power to narrate the story for you. Sometimes protection looks like a closed door. Sometimes it looks like a delay that saves you from speaking too soon. Sometimes it looks like a quieter rhythm than the one you wanted. These limits are not always easy to love, but they can be merciful. If something about this nearness feels fragile, then haste is not your friend. You may need to respect the boundaries that help the moment remain true. That could mean answering less quickly, praying more intentionally, or simply allowing the relationship or awareness to develop without your interference. Mercy is not always dramatic. Often it is found in restraint. There are times when the most loving thing you can do is not push. The most truthful thing you can do is not decorate uncertainty with certainty. A guarded heart often attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.